I'm Jackie. I'm a mom and a preschool teacher, and this video is all about how to help give your toddler meaningful and empowering jobs at home. Giving your toddler meaningful jobs at home really helps benefit their mental health, emotional development, impulse control, and instill a deep-rooted intrinsic motivation that will help them succeed for the rest of their lives. The goal of this whole process is not to make your toddler do jobs, and it's not to make your toddler work, because toddlers are toddlers and they learn by playing. They're not actually going to be able to do things well at this age, but the goal is to set the framework for how to take care of their space, how to respect their belongings, and how to be responsible. It really sets the framework. If you give them small tasks here and there that are consistent and predictable, then when they get old enough where it's time to have daily chores, or as teenagers they got to keep their room clean, or they got to keep up with their homework, starting out when they're a toddler and they start out knowing what to expect, it makes it a lot easier when you make those transitions as they get bigger. What does it mean to give your toddler a job at home? It means to give them responsibilities that are easy to handle, that aren't overly complicated, and that are meaningful to them. Involve them with your tasks around the house. Engage their interests to see what they might be interested in. Let them have a say in the job that they choose. Follow their lead and give them jobs that they really like. So, for example, say you're sweeping the floor and your toddler keeps coming over and trying to grab the broom out of your hand. Yes, it's frustrating. You just want to sweep the floor, but them doing that is a way of saying, I want to help you. I'm big and I want to do this too. So you could get them their own little dustpan, and you could let them hold the broom. You could let them explore and experiment with how to sweep. Obviously, they're not going to be able to actually sweep anything up, but the goal is to help empower them, not to get a job done. Because you can sweep at any point. Your toddler just wants to be helpful. And you can make a habit out of whatever job you choose. So if your toddler really likes to help you sweep and you sweep every day right after lunch, then they know that after lunch is over, it's time to sweep. Then they'll get out their dustpan, they'll get out their broom, and they'll help you sweep every time. So be consistent and be predictable. It's one thing to have your toddler help sweep once or twice every month versus being consistent and predictable so that they know that this is what happens after every time we have lunch. Toddlers are still really young. They're 2s and 3s, and they have the right to say no. And it's really important to respect their no. Some days they're just not going to be able to help. Some days they're not going to want to, and that is okay. If you respect your toddler's no, then they're going to be more willing to say yes, because it's going to be their choice. If you always make the choice for them by saying
they don't have a choice, they have to do this thing, or they have to clean up their toys,
they're not going to respect that, because their no is not respected. So if you let them say no without repercussions and help them learn how to get past laziness instead, or just pick up after them or do their job for them if they just really can't do it that day, then they're going to learn that it's okay to say no, and they're going to be more willing to want to be cooperative if they know that when they can't or when they don't want to, that it will be respected. And that's because toddlers are discovering their boundaries. They're not babies anymore. They're learning that they're individual people. And saying no helps them develop a sense of where they stop and somebody else begins. And it's really important to respect a toddler's no, then they'll be more willing to respect your no. And some jobs are just not going to be safe. Some things are just not going to be okay for them to help with. Moving heavy things, or cooking if you have a knife or the stove on or anything like that. But you can still involve them by explaining what these dangerous things are, so that they're going to be better able to handle it. If they get in a situation where they're encountered with something more dangerous, they're going to be able to know what to do. So say that they want to help out in the kitchen, but there's knives on the counter. And obviously you don't want a toddler in the kitchen when there's knives on the counter, because they could grab one and then they could pull it down and they could cut something or cut themselves. And that's just a recipe for disaster. So in a regular situation, maybe you would want to just block off the kitchen and don't let them come in. But if you're able to, you could also bring them into the kitchen, hold them, and tell them what a knife is. Explain to them what a knife is, what it's used for, and that it's not safe to touch. Because what happens if you turn your back and they grabbed it off the counter when you're not looking? Would they know what to do? You could say something like, this is called a knife. We use it to chop up fruits and veggies. This metal part is sharp and it has a blade. I want to keep you safe, so you may not touch the knife, but you can watch me as I use it. If you touch the knife, it could cut you and that would hurt. Watch how it cuts through this carrot. When you're bigger, I'll teach you how to use it all by yourself, but right now it's not safe to touch. Now, obviously, keep all dangerous items out of reach of toddlers. That includes knives and medications, chemicals, choking hazards, and all that. And this method is definitely not a replacement for safe practices. It is a support in case you accidentally mess up and leave something dangerous out that you don't intend to. If they run into a situation where they have a knife or they see a knife, they're not going to be curious because they already know what it is. Finally, the way that you reinforce their behavior is going to make a big difference in their willingness to want to help. Reinforce their behavior not with saying good job or rewards, but by celebrating them. Saying good job feels patronizing. Imagine that you're working and you stayed a little late to help out a coworker. How would you want your boss to handle it? Would you want your boss to say, hey, good job last night. I think there's some extra cookies in the break room. Maybe you want your boss to say something like, hey, I noticed that you stayed late to help out last night. We're back on schedule. That was really helpful. Which one feels better? One of them feels patronizing. The other one feels like you're being celebrated and that you're really being appreciated. One of them makes you feel like you want to continue being helpful, and the other one makes you feel like you're only in it for the cookie. Toddlers feel that way too, and what's going to keep them motivated to want to be helpful if there's no more cookies or there's no punishment that's going to happen? Teenagers and adults who have a hard time following through with things most likely grew up in a situation where their parents were overbearing with punishments or rewards, and now that they're adults or they're teenagers and those restrictions are lifted, what's keeping them doing the things around the house that they need to do? Those restrictions are gone, and there's no intrinsic motivation because all of that motivation is all external. So what do you do instead of giving rewards or saying good job? All you do is shift it to, you did it. Celebrate their accomplishment, tell them what they did that was helpful and how it was meaningful. So you could say, for example, say your toddler found a piece of trash on the floor and they threw it in the trash can. Instead of telling them good job, you could say something like, oh wow, you did it. You picked up the trash off the floor. That was really helpful. That's going to help keep our house clean. And they know exactly what they did, how it was helpful, and that you're noticing that they're being helpful. So I wanted to share with you how this all played out with my daughter, who is almost 2. And for the last like 6 months or so, she feeds the cat all by herself. The way this all happened was when she started coming down in the kitchen, when she first started walking, she was really interested in me feeding the cat in the morning. And she would come over while I was walking over to the cat's, we have a little tray that we put the food on. And she would touch the plate as I was walking, and she wanted to help. So I noticed, oh, this is something that she's interested in, something she wants to do. So over time, it took about maybe 2 weeks or so where I would walk over with her and we would put the food down together. And during that time, I would back off a little bit more, put more weight in her hand, so she got used to what it feels like to hold the plate on her own. And then in about 2 weeks, we transitioned to now she's carrying the plate all by herself and I'm watching. And I'm right behind her to help her in case it slips. And in about a week or so of that, we switched over and I stopped watching. And I just listened. I stayed in the kitchen and she went around the corner and just listened, and I heard the plate go down on the thing, and I knew that she could do it. Since then, she feeds the cat every single morning, and she also brings the food from the night before and puts it into the sink. And sometimes I have to ask her to do it. I'll just say, put Babo's, our cat's name is Bellie's, which is the name of the channel, but we call her Babo. because you know you have like 1,000 names for your pets, right? So I'll tell her, put Babo's plate in the sink, and she'll walk over, she'll pick up the plate, she'll bring it over and put it in the sink. Sometimes I'll have to tell her more than once, especially if she's like really into playing. Sometimes she does it without prompting. Sometimes she doesn't want to do it, and I'll ask her if she needs help. And sometimes she won't do it at all. I let her say no. If she doesn't want to do it one day, I will do it for her. And I'll usually ask, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it for you? And sometimes just because she likes to really be independent, that'll be enough to get her motivated to do it. And other times she'll tell me, Mama, do it. And when she's done, I always celebrate her success. I don't tell her good job because I don't want to imply that what she's doing is good or bad, because there's no judgment. There's no judgment that, oh, you did what I want you to do, therefore you're good, or you're not doing something I need you to do, so now you're not good, which means you're bad. Because I have an issue with that growing up in a very punitive household where love was withheld a lot when we weren't following direction. And I'm pretty transparent on my channel about how I was abused as a kid growing up, and having that good versus bad mentality is something I struggle with every day, and I don't want my daughter growing up with that. And I don't want my daughter growing up with those toxic thoughts about if she's good enough or if she's bad because she's not doing something somebody else wants her to do. And because I've set this up for her in a really empowering way, she wants to be helpful. It makes her feel good about herself, it gives her confidence, it gives her responsibility, and it gives her a meaningful task that she wanted to do. She wants to help mix, she wants to scrub the dishes, she wants to sweep. Here. Here's Babo's food. Could you feed her? Put the heart down first. Okay?
Okay.
Yep, 2 hands. You got this. Go ahead. You know where to put it on her tray? Put her food on her tray. Thank you. You did it. You did it. Woohoo!
Woo-hoo.
Respecting your child, empowering them, and giving them jobs around the house helps them just feel confident and feel like they're more willing to be helpful in situations that aren't necessarily part of their responsibility or their job. They're just more willing to want to be helpful when you empower them. I end the video with just a list of 20 different job ideas that you could try out with your toddler just to get you started thinking about all the different things that toddlers can do at this age. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I wish you peace, love, health, and joy.